Morning, everyone. So today is day 22, and what I've been doing is looking at the four foundations of mindfulness, which is the Buddha's teaching on mindfulness. So today's the last day of that. So I'm going to be looking at contemplation of mind. Not of mind, of views, and how views come about, really. How do we, in Buddhism, best bring our views about? And so basically I'll just say what that is to warm you up a bit. So it's through observation. We observe how things are. We also accept how things are, and we reflect on how things are. So we orientate our thinking towards how things are, and kind of think deeply about things. So we're using all our faculties really to get a clear view about the nature of reality. In the Buddhist tradition, so we were talking about wisdom yesterday. So there are actually three types of wisdom. There's a wisdom which is a kind of like a direct knowing. We just know. So the Buddha just knew that he was enlightened, and so this is something called jnana there. And then there's the type of wisdom that's like active, that comes about through reflection and meditation, where you're sort of taking something deeper and trying to kind of get that view really deeply into your psyche, right down to the depths of transforming the depths of your psyche. So that's prajna. Prajna, and the third type is something called vidya. So vidya is it's like a kind of it's more poetic in a way. It's more of a kind of aesthetic appreciation, something like that. So it's the kind of thing that you get in poetry by Zen masters. They allude to their little hut with the moonlight coming down, the simplicity of being in the woods and stuff like that. So it's aesthetic appreciation of vidya. So I'll be talking about these later. But first, I thought what we'd do. I had a bit of a twinge in my back yesterday, and I think it'd be nice to do a little bit of walking meditation. It's really interesting how these classes come about, because if I go to bed and I've kind of got a vague idea of the theme of what the topic is for today. But I can't really force something out in terms of a plan, and then it starts to unfold in the hour before the class, that I think, I'll do some walking meditation. Three levels of wisdom, three types of wisdom, and then things just kind of, I find books that I want to read from, and then I get excited about that. And so it's been really great just doing these classes, and it's good for me, and I feel sort of grateful to be in a position to be able to share the knowledge of the Buddhist tradition, with you, and my own sort of experience, that sort of thing. And then later on, after the meditate, we'll do a little bit of sitting meditation as well. And then after the meditation, I'll go into the three types of wisdom, and then we'll just finish off the contemplation of views that we started yesterday, with the different looking at the different ways in which views are conditioned. So views being conditioned is the topic of that today. Okay, so So if you want to stand up, and we'll do a bit of walking meditation. So just finding you're going to have to just work with what you've got really in your place where you are. So you can do walking meditation in a sort of quite small space really. You just have to keep walking in small circles mindfully. Okay, let's just warm up a bit. So rubbing our hands together, and back to the hands and up the arms. Brushing. Let's do some of this. From the guts. Think of the Shaolin monk. Hey. So you want your energy to be sort of coming up from the depths. Get the backs of your, get your kidneys a little bit, and your buttocks. Shake everything out, hands and feet, head. So I was thinking with these classes that what's next? What's the next series? And I thought it'd be good to begin to go into practical stuff. Practical things. So in the there's a lot of people in the Triratna movement that I'm part of who have got lots of experience about being on their own. Spending time on retreat. What do you do with yourself? So I thought it'd be nice to start interacting with some of those people. So I'm going to try and interview some of them on Zoom and then share those videos. That's one idea. So that'll help connect me a bit more up with other people and share some of my friendships. And so we're in a very different situation now. A lot of people are thinking this in the world. What do we do? What's going to happen to the economy? And it's like yesterday, just looking at what might be happening in Bangladesh. All the clothing companies like Next and have stopped sending them orders. There's millions of people there just out of work and cramped together, and it's horrific. So we just need to keep going and find ways of accessing something that's going to help us deal with all of that change. And we're going to have to do it through things like the internet and through Zoom and through Facebook Live and it might get a bit unpredictable out there really. So the Buddhist tradition's got a lot to say to all of that, and I shared there's a Windows Publications are offering a free ebook of Tales of Freedom. What a fantastic book that is! I really recommend that you get it. It's all sorts of tales of people who have got some sort of attainment really in the Buddhist tradition and the way that they act. So for instance the Zen master, there's a story of a Zen master, and he kind of just runs into this tiger's cave with alacrity. The word is alacrity. It's like he's eager. He's eager to face reality, so he just runs in and taps the tiger on the nose. But he can only do that because on some level he's just really accepted the way that things are and that things change, and it's best to not try and run away from all of that, but to face it with alacrity. So yeah, and there's a really interesting story of is it Donald Crowhurst, the lone yachtsman who went around the world, but he didn't on the yacht. You know, he ended up pretending that he went around the world. But that pretending just got to him in the end, and he threw himself off the boat. So really interesting stories, fantastic storyteller, Visandra. So yeah. Okay, just rotate your hips. Just 1, 2, 3 like that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we're just going to do some walking meditation. So just standing and being aware of your feet, the contact of your feet with the ground. And then just beginning by just taking a step with your left foot. And now sensing the change of sensations that's happening down there at your feet. So how does it feel to have your left foot has moved now, a position, and then shifting your weight onto your left foot and just noticing how that feels for the shift of weight, and you're lifting your right foot off the ground so that just the ball of the foot is touching. And so just let your arms just dangle by your sides in a relaxed sort of way. And then you're noticing how it is when you shift your weight over onto your right foot, and maybe turn a little bit with your body, so you're going into in a small circle here. And now you're lifting your left foot off the ground. So if you're tottering over, just get your attention down into your body. Put your thoughts to one side. Take your attention into your body. And it's just simple. It's just simple in a way. It's just following. You're just following yourself as your body as it walks around. So noticing you're turning a bit more, and your weight has gone onto your left foot, and your right foot is just touching with the ball or the toes, and it's wanting to lift off, and just letting it lift off, taking another step, planting that foot and shifting your weight. Just feel, how does that feel to be moving again, and you're lifting your left foot, and you're aware of your clothing on your skin and of the world outside, and the room in the room, the air in the room, and the window, and the sounds of the world outside, and how you feel at the moment. So any feeling going on in your chest, any areas of tension in your body. So turning towards mindfulness of the body as a refuge, as a way of dealing with life, with our situations, we can always turn towards the sensations in the body that are going on, and this tends to bring us a sense of comfort and reassurance. That there are things that can be accessed and relied on that are stable, and then carrying on being aware of your shifting weight, which foot's forward now, so mine's my left foot, and then I'm lifting my right heel off the floor and putting my right foot down again. So on Theravada Buddhist retreats, I've been on a few of those, people do a lot of this, very slow walking meditation, and I think it's very good for just calming the mind down. And a good thing about it is that we get to move. So particularly, in our situations now, a lot of people are staying in a lot and not moving very much, not going out. Today's Tuesday. Last time I went out was last Wednesday. So what you can do, what they do in Theravada retreats is to alternate doing slow walking meditation like this and mindfulness of breathing meditation. So you could alternate doing slow walking meditation with other things like work, and I live in a one-bedroom flat, so what I sometimes do is just walk between the rooms, just walk slowly into another room, slowly turn around, walk back, and I just do that until I feel in my experience that I have energy there and I've developed some calm. So it's like sensing in your own experience, when you've done enough, and then when you sit, you'll have that energy, or when you work, you'll have that energy in your in your system, and it'll be easier to work. And I think walking meditation, it generates chi, or the kind of subtle energy in the body that helps the body be buoyant and upright. And just collecting yourself around the walking, so bringing along with you everything that's there in your experience, your feelings, your thoughts. So your walking meditation can support you in whatever state that you're in. So just bringing everything along, bringing your anxiety, if you have it, along with you, and just giving it to the walking meditation. So giving it to the walking meditation to be transformed. sometimes we just need to stop and wait. So if you feel a bit stirred up or something like that, just stop and collect yourself together. And only when you're ready, set off again. So we're not overriding anything. We're not kind of getting on with things and overriding what's actually there. Sometimes we need to just stop and absorb, give space to whatever's going on for ourselves. And we can do this as well, just in general. If we feel a bit stirred up, can we find a place in our flat which is a bit more isolated and quiet, and maybe turn it into a kind of den if you can, and just go sit there and just do nothing, and just wait for yourself to settle down, to calm down. So staying with the sensations in your feet as you move around the room. And being aware of the shape that your body is making as it walks. And any sounds that you can hear as your clothing shifts position as well. Enjoying what your changing view as you're walking around, just observing, just receiving whatever's there, whatever your eyes are pointing towards, just receiving it as it is. And just accepting it as it is. Now just coming to a standstill and just being aware of your whole body and the sensations of your feet touching the ground. And then do a little bow to each other, and then take a seat in your meditation posture. So if you're new, just find me a chair or some meditation cushions, some hardish cushions to sit on the floor. So getting used to this new position. And just feeling the contact of your body with the cushion, the chair, ground. And staying in touch with any good energy that you had in the body, and trying to maintain that. So it's quite good to just allow the body to just sit there, so not having a sense of not needing to hold it up. So just putting down any ideas of holding the body up or sitting up straight, but just being aware of the skeleton of the body and where that is, where the bones are, and relying on that as being the thing that is going to hold the weight of the body up. Well, so to hold the structure of the body up. And just gradually softening any tension in your muscles. So if your muscles feel like the structure of your body will support them, they will be able to let go and stop holding on. I'm beginning to notice the sensations of your breathing. Watching the breath come in. Watching the breath turn around. Watching it leave the body. Just being patient while you allow yourself to arrive here into this new position. Just watching the breath come in. Watching it turn around, watching it go out again. Being aware of how the breath just is never the same. Like a river is never the same. And time is never the same. How the world is always new and different. But it's also here as well for us. So breathing in, breathing out, count 1 in your head. Breathing in, breathing out, count 2, and so on until you get to 10. And then breathing in, breathing out, counting 1, 2, and so on. So counting sets of 10 breaths. Mindfulness of breathing practice. So if your mind has wandered off, just come back to the next bit of breath that you can notice and begin the practice again, just counting from 1. Breathe in, breathe out, count 1, and so on. So taking your time to come out of that meditation. So as I said earlier, there are these three types of wisdom in Buddhism. You've got the top one, jnana. You've got prajna and you've got vidya. So basically, in a way, it's almost like there are different ways of maybe so different people have kind of different strengths in the way that they take things in, you know. So some people are more like wisdom types, so they're like more prajna, so it's more logical. They kind of things need to make sense for them. And other people are more aesthetic types, so the way that they access the world is through aesthetic appreciation, you know, so through images and through poetry and that sort of thing. And then the third one is jnana, which is like direct knowledge, so directly knowing something. Knowing and so there's a phrase in Buddhism, knowing and seeing things as they really are, which happens when you start to get insight. So this is more like kind of just a direct, you know, you just know something, you just know, it's almost like tangible. And so you get, and maybe this is more like the meditator who just kind of knows something in their experience directly. Yeah. I'm just going to read a little bit about the three different types of wisdom. So this is Sangharakshita's "What is the Dharma?" and here's what he says about jnana, about direct knowledge. There are several Sanskrit words usually translated as wisdom or knowledge, which can be rather confusing. To begin with, there are the words vijnana and jnana. Both these words come from the same verbal root, jna, to know. But although they have a shared derivation, there is a clear distinction between them. A distinction that is of absolutely fundamental importance. For Buddhism, for spiritual life, even ultimately for civilization and culture itself. The two words both have several meanings, but here I want to use them in the sense they bear in the teachings of the four reliances which occurs in a number of Mahayana texts. So these are the four great reliances, the things that we should rely on rather than one thing rather than another. So the first of these reliances is that one should rely on the teaching, not on the person who teaches. So, yeah, in the Buddhist tradition, it does talk in the Kalama Sutta. The Buddha talks about, judge the teaching on its merits. You know, does it lead to overcoming suffering or not? Rather than relying on somebody's reputation, like a teacher's reputation. So just because somebody is your teacher doesn't mean you should like not have an uncritical view about what they're saying. You know, it's like you need to work. You know, need to make your mind up for yourself. So this is really important in Buddhism. You know, there's no dogma in Buddhism. everything has in the end to come down to working in your own experience. So Buddhism has three grounds for faith. This is the Mahayana teaching. Reason, things have to make sense. Intuition, it's helpful if they feel right. If something feels right, but ultimately they need to be confirmed in experience. They have to actually work. So happiness has to actually come about for ourselves and others through practicing mindfulness and loving kindness and the other Buddhist practices. So that's the first reliance. So secondly, one should rely on the meaning, not on the expression. So he says, Sangharakshita says, don't be misled by the expression, try and find out what is really meant. So this is really important just generally. If somebody says something to us, and we pick up on a phrase that they've used, and maybe what happens is our preconceived views pick up on that phrase and go, oh no, that's wrong, I can't, and we're kind of overlooking what they're actually trying to say. So it's really important to think, well, hang on, what's this person actually trying to communicate? What's the truth of what they're trying to communicate to me? Not like what I've just heard and I'm maybe reacting to. So, rely on the meaning. Get to the meaning of it, rather than look at what's more superficial about the expression. And then the third great reliance is one should rely on scriptures of definitive meaning, not on scriptures of interpretable meaning. So sometimes you have sometimes you might hear a story, or you might hear a little bit of hear a phrase or something like that. So a well-known example of this is from the Zen tradition, and it's if you see the Buddha on the road, you should kill him. Right, great. What does that mean in the context of the Buddhist religion? Well, what that means is it's very specific and particular to something that can happen, which is that we start to look to teachers and look to I don't know, archetypes and things like that, in a way in which is like we're just kind of in a way like looking up to them can get in the way of us working on ourselves. So ultimately we've got to be transforming ourselves, not idolizing a teacher or something like that. So I think it's something like that. So it's like that phrase is only helpful in that particular instance. It needs interpretation. So it's if you're kind of putting your teacher on a pedestal too much, that's not a good idea. So symbolically you need to kind of kill that idea. A scripture of definitive meaning is what you should rely on. So it's very clear that in the Buddhist tradition, such a teaching is loving kindness. So we should practice loving kindness under all circumstances, because this is one of the things that's going to lead to overcoming suffering for ourselves and others. So we set the loving kindness teaching against the kill the Buddha on the road if you see him on the road teaching, and we prefer the teaching of definitive meaning. So that's very clear that is what you should do, is loving kindness. So you always interpret obscure, ambiguous teachings in the light of clear and straightforward teachings. And then he says, fourthly, one should rely on jnana, not on vijnana. So vijnana means consciousness, and the V at the beginning, it means something like divided. There's no such thing as consciousness. There's only being conscious of something, right? So I was talking earlier in the week about phenomenology and how if you stop theorizing about everything, there's only what you can. There's only you having an experience. There's you living in a world, having a particular experience, being conscious of things, and then working with that, working with what's in front of you, and what appears to you, and interpreting it in the right way, and then coming up with something that's going to be helpful and lead to happiness for yourself and others. So yeah, get rid of the idea that there's consciousness as a thing there inside you. There's just a process of being conscious. So jnana and vijnana come from the same verbal root, according to Sangharakshita, and he says, but there's a big difference between them. In fact, they are opposites. Jnana sees things as they really are. Vijnana sees things only as they appear to be. So, as I said, it's like we're conscious of things. Jnana is free from greed, hatred, and delusion. So, jnana is what is possessed by an enlightened being, a Buddha or another a bodhisattva, another kind of enlightened being, has jnana. So, and vijnana is completely ensnared in greed, hatred, and delusion. Jnana is transcendental. Vijnana is mundane. Jnana is of the nature of nirvana. Vijnana is of the nature of samsara, or conditioned existence, unenlightened experience. The vast majority of people, of course, rely on jnana. To put it in the terms used in the Yogacaran tradition, their knowledge is determined by the physical senses, by the so-called rational mind, and by the ego mind or ego consciousness. Very few people rely on jnana, on transcendental wisdom. Stream entrants do. So stream entrants are people who've got so far that they're not going to fall back from enlightenment. So they're quite well on the path. And so perhaps do the very greatest of the great poets and thinkers. But nowadays we may in fact say that most people not only do not rely upon jnana, but even have no conception of jnana as distinct from vijnana. For them, knowledge is essentially vijnana, something empirical and rational, something of a sophisticated scientific type. People simply have no conception of the possibility of another kind of knowledge, no conception of the possibility of jnana. One could therefore say that, as a Buddhist, one's greatest task in the West today is to explain, even insist upon, the difference between jnana and vijnana. Unless this difference is understood and acted upon, there can be no real spiritual life, no real Buddhism, no real as distinct from effective going for refuge. So, yeah, so the point that Sangharakshita is really strongly making there is that we're looking for the complete transformation of our being, so that we really know the nature, the way that things are, and we're not just relying on our being conscious of different things out in the world, then having opinions about them, but those opinions and emotions are all informed by greed, hatred, and delusion. So that's jnana, and then prajna is more more to do with first of all thinking. So we get Sutamaya prajna, which is the three levels of wisdom, or Sutamaya prajna, which is wisdom through hearing. We hear something and we get it. It makes sense to us. So we read a book and we understand it, and we believe that in what's just been said. We think that makes sense. And then you've got Chintamaya prajna, which is like we've thought about that concept more deeply and made it more personal to us. So it's like we've woven it in with our experience, and we're using it regularly to help us as our way of thinking about things. So Chinta means thinking. So we kind of think about things in that sort of way. It's part of our concepts, the concepts that we use regularly. And then bhavana prajna is when is meditation, wisdom through meditation. So we've transformed the whole of our being, right down, even our deepest fears, desires, uncertainties. All of that has become in line with our intellectual knowledge and our thinking. So so it's like we're completely heading. Our whole psyche is heading in the same direction. So the Zen master Hui Neng in the Platform Sutra talks about prajna and samadhi. So samadhi is this sense of concentration. Everything in us is heading in the same direction. I've talked about that earlier this week. And he says samadhi, the two are in a way the same. Samadhi is the quintessence of prajna, while prajna is the activity of samadhi. It's like the lamp and the light. The lamp is the quintessence of the light, and the light is the expression of the lamp. So, in a way, wisdom is this view that we have of everything that has no greed, hatred, and delusion in it. It's very clear about how things are. And then samadhi is the constellation of our whole being around that view, and the way that our whole being is together with that view. Quite a lot in today's, but maybe play it back and have a think about it. And the final type of wisdom, vidya, is more to do with aesthetic appreciation. That's what Herbert Gunter translates it as, aesthetic appreciation. It's like prajna, but without the element of analysis. And so Sangharakshita, with this type of wisdom, he talks about the person who sees a load of trees, and then they've got a very utilitarian view about the trees and think, oh yeah, what a great, there's a lot of wood there, I could make some money out of that, rather than appreciating the the beauty of the wood for itself. So the state of the bodhisattva, empty of any desire to use things for any particular purpose, just has aesthetic appreciation. If you're a bodhisattva, you enjoy the world much as you enjoy a work of art or an artistic performance, with the difference that you do not experience a division between yourself and something out there. Normally, though less so in the cinema, people in an audience retain a sense of themselves as subjects separate from what they are experiencing as an aesthetic object, and to that degree remain alien from it. But the Bodhisattva's experience of the world is more like music heard so deeply that it is not heard at all, but you are the music while the music lasts. So, some sort of sense of aesthetic, of vidya there. So I'm just going to finish off by having a look at the final look at contemplating the mind as the mind, and how we bring about wisdom, how we bring about right view. Okay, so this says at the bottom, it says contemplate views as views. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, each of the four foundations, we're invited to contemplate them as themselves rather than as something else. So we try and be, when we're dealing with the body, we try and be with the body, not somewhere else. So when we're trying to relax, we get in touch with our physical experience, and we do that. And it's the same with views. So we try and be with our views, sort of see that we have views. We never don't have views, So looking at our views and trying to make our views conducive to happiness for ourselves and others. So we move our view we reflect on our view and move it towards being what's called right view, which is the view that people from stream entry onwards hold, up into enlightenment. So so how do we bring about right view? So there are three ways in which views are conditioned, and right view is conditioned. So the first one is from our tangible experience. So body you can see as just our body, our actual body, but also what we're experiencing in the world, anything tangible. So the way that the Buddhist tradition encourages us to do this is through observation. So this is observation. So by observing how things are, we see the nature of those things. Well, we have a view that's helpful in a practical sense. So, we observe everything, and we navigate everything, and we don't cause ourselves suffering by crashing into things. We're just on a very practical level. We sort of see what's there and work with it, with the technology that we have, and but also we see its nature, we observe its nature. So when we sit by a stream and we see the water going past, and if we do this say we're on a retreat and we're just sitting by a stream, and then after a certain amount of time it starts to kind of like just become really apparent how much change is just going on all the time, that river's never the same, it's just constantly changing all the time. So we're, our view about life, about the nature of things, is informed by clear, close observation. So we move away from just seeing things as things that have by their labels. You know, that's the river, or that's water, and we start to see the intricate detail of the actual experience. So sometimes in the West we can be too much just labelling everything and thinking that that's enough to know it. Well, it isn't. So jnana, the direct knowing type of wisdom, in a way, I think, comes about through this direct observation. And the Buddha sort of said to just when he became enlightened, you know, he became enlightened, he became liberated from greed, hatred, and delusion. And then the final step was that he knew that was the case. You know, he was certain that he had overcome greed, hatred, and delusion. So so that's jnana and observation. And then we've got how views come about, are transformed. Right view comes about through feeling. So I was saying earlier in the week about how you know, when we have a difficult feeling that we don't really want to accept, then our view, if we don't accept something that's actually happening, then it's like our view is like denying reality. It's not in line with reality, you know. So we might have the view that this shouldn't be happening. No, this shouldn't be happening. No, this, you know. No, I didn't sign up for this, you know. But what we're encouraging Buddhism to do is to accept things that are actually the case, that we can't do anything about, you know. So if we've got a physical injury, or if we're in a difficult situation, like we can't go out because of the virus, it's better to accept that than it is to agonise about it and rail against it. So when we accept, so this is the arrow of acceptance. So when we accept feeling, then all feeling, then our views become more in line with reality in the sense of feeling. So we start to learn that life does contain suffering within it. Dukkha, the word is dukkha in Buddhism. Life, we need to expect there to be some suffering in life. But also, I think this relationship between feeling and views is also where we can get the wisdom, aesthetic appreciation, or vidya coming in. So it's not all about suffering. It's also about life's also about enjoying life, about appreciation of beauty, about appreciation of nature, and so, you know, we can simplify our lives, and we can enjoy poetry, we can enjoy art, we can enjoy higher sort of values expressed in, you know, religious texts and things like that. You know, we can have a sense of it said in the text about the bodhisattva, of just being completely identified with the world and just enjoying it, you know, enjoying it. So often, so if thinking of the Zen garden in Japanese Buddhism, you have a Zen garden, and what it has is usually some rocks that are kind of in the middle there somewhere, and have something natural on them. Often they look very rough, and they have moss growing on them. And at the same time, the gravel around them is raked into lines, so there's this sense of order coming from the raked gravel, and also nature coming from the rock. And there's something about in that aesthetic of that's teaching us something about appreciation, about life, about a kind of Buddhist approach to experience. So it's like saying, well, yeah, there are things that you need to do in life, which is represented by the order. So it's like you need to have order and discipline in your life, but also there needs to be this sort of openness to nature and to the rugged, the jagged, the unpredictable, the aesthetic, the nature of things that we can't control, that isn't within our control. So the things that we can, by accepting them, we can actually have a sense of appreciation of them and see the beauty in them. So that's aesthetic appreciation, vidya, and acceptance. And then finally we've got this way of that views come about. So mind, as I said in previous days, has three aspects: thinking, emotion, and attention. So when we think about things, clearly, we sit down in an armchair and we just think about them. So I recommend Ratnaguna's book, The Art of Reflection, for this. Windhorse Publications. It goes into that a lot, how to reflect, what reflection is. So just giving things enough time, giving ourselves enough space to actually think about things and just stop and think. So if we don't think about things like that usually, and we're busy, then when we sit down to meditate, what we often do is we start thinking about things. We do the processing that we haven't managed to do in our lives, in our daily lives. So it's really good to just maybe give ourselves some time to stop and reflect and just think about a topic, and run with that for a while. I mean, I've been running with how do the four foundations of mindfulness work for this long time, 16 years of thinking. So, but it can become really great to have a topic like that to come back to refresh your intellect with. So this is the way in which this type of wisdom is prajna. So wisdom through hearing, through thinking, and then ultimately through meditating. So ultimately, what we're looking to do is to turn every active aspect of our psyche, our thinking, our emotions, our attention, bringing them all together in meditation into this. So all together to create right view. So that's it for this session. This series on the four foundations of mindfulness and the Buddha's teaching on mindfulness. And so what I've done in this series is to take the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the main Buddhist teaching on mindfulness, and I've unpacked it in terms of the Buddhist law of conditionality. So the law that states that in dependence on one thing, something else arises. When that thing isn't here, that thing ceases. So everything is in conditioned existence. Unenlightened experience is like that, So the world outside, the cosmos, our internal world, our feelings, our mental states, our body, our views are all conditioned. They all condition each other and are in a kind of network of conditions that if we work with those conditions, then this is all we have, So it's like in the Satipatthana Sutta, it talks about giving up grief and lamentation for the world. So we turn away from the world as our refuge. We stop looking for sensory experiences and unskillful mental states to be the thing that give us what we need, what give us our happiness, and we turn towards mindfulness, towards our experience, towards working with the four foundations, and as the route forward, and that takes us into higher states of consciousness called jnana. It takes us into becoming skillful in all areas of our lives, to looking after our body, to not crashing into things, to accepting things when we can't change them, to working with ethics, so working with worldly feeling and spiritual feeling. So, our mental states give us a sense of conscience, so listening to our conscience, and then getting behind our emotion, getting our emotions behind ourselves and behind others through developing loving kindness, and making that stronger and stronger and stronger, so that and doing the same with our attention, so that our attention is really sharp, and then reflecting on the nature of things. So we just bring in everything together so that it's all augmenting and augmenting and augmenting, and we're becoming kind of stronger and stronger and stronger as an individual practitioner, and developing qualities like concentration, energy in pursuit of the good, wisdom and faith, confidence in the teachings, and mindfulness at the centre of all of that, very strongly, making all that very strong and stable. And then we can then look at how things are, effectively take in how things are, and then transform that at the depths of our being, so that we ultimately, we're in possession of jnana, of transcendental wisdom, of really knowing how things are, being free of greed, hatred and delusion, having prajna, having vidya, all of those qualities of enlightenment. So thanks very much for this opportunity to share my thoughts that I've been having over the number of years, and I'm going to sort of try and get all this out onto YouTube, and so it's available to the world. And I think what I'd really enjoy would be to be in dialogue about the whole thing, both within the mindfulness tradition and also, within the Buddhist tradition. And it's good to just keep talking about the Dharma and try to unless we keep talking about it, it will probably end up atrophying. So dialogue. So I'm going to sort of try and have some dialogue over the next coming time with other people, other order members, and maybe people from outside the movement. So watch this space, and see you again tomorrow. Okay, bye.